Alright, hey everybody. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the fun map, version 2.0 we're going to be deploying, and Moose and what it's actually doing. So, the first thing I do when I'm editing a mission is I go into here, into DCS, and I make it not full screen and set the resolution to smaller than my native resolution on my monitor. So my monitor's at 3440 by 1440. I set this to 1920 by 1080. That's the standard 1080p like most monitors are. But because my monitor is high resolution, I get a smaller window. So if you're using like a 1920 by 1080 resolution monitor, set it to like the next one down. 1024 by 768 is probably the next one down of your format. So at least that way you get a window and you get to see your code. And more importantly, though, you can run a program called Glog, and it lets you read log files as they're being generated. So a lot of times when I'm troubleshooting an issue or a bug, or I want to see what's actually going on, I let Glog just run while the mission's running, and I see this populate. And we'll demonstrate that here in a little bit. So one thing I want to talk about is the spawning. So remember, all of these tankers down here, Texaco, the AWACS, and then Arco Shell. All these guys aren't actually mission planes that are spawning in the game. These are just templates. Moose is the one that spawns them, and the template tells them what to do after they spawn. Same thing with the enemy AI. We saw the cap, go out. We saw GCI, respond. All of that is handled by Moose. Nothing actually spawns at mission start, which is why everything is late activation. So we're going to focus on the blue assets first and talk about the tankers. So what we want to do is I have Eclipse LDT open, Eclipse Low Development Tools in the background. You can use Notepad++, but I really like this. Flight Control has a really good video about setting up Eclipse for Lua editing. So I would recommend checking that out. So we're going to kind of just get into here now. So the first thing you have to do in any mission is, it loads Moose. And this is the moose.lua file, and this is the, the groundwork, the framework that sits on top of DCS. But it can't do anything by itself. We needed another script, or a missions file script. This one's called another dispatch test.lua. That's what, this file name is. This file tells Moose what to do, and Moose tells DCS what to do. So that is how we leverage all of the spawning and everything going on. One thing that trips a lot of people up is just because I make changes in here and I save it, it's actually only saving it, to, my missions, your directory on your hard drive. You still have to upload the new copy into here, even though it's the same file name, because once you save this, or actually once you set this up, it will upload this file at the time, but doesn't update as you save it on your hard drive. So if I made a change here and changed, GCI radius to, 1 billion miles or something, I'd have to go in here and reselect the file to upload a new copy to your .mis file. I prefer to just delete it and do script file, select it again, just because my OCD, just to make sure I know it was gone, then I re-added the new version. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Okay. So we're going to talk about blue side first. So what we have here in our script, here, this is probably hard for you to see, so we're just going to zoom in here a little bit. That should be a little bit easier, just to make sure. Okay. So for those of you unfamiliar with Lua, if you put a dash, it is a comment line. A comment is basically, instructions, for humans to read. Moose, DCS, they don't do anything with this, so we can just type it here whatever we want to. So I'm trying to explain, as we get to each part of the script, what they are doing. So here we're defining spawn tanker Texaco. What that is going to do is spawn a new template tanker Texaco. So if we go into our mission file, and we click Texaco, his template name is Tanker Texaco. So he's going to spawn a new Tanker Texaco. We have a init limit, or a limit of this guy, of one active template at a time. with a total of 10. So what this will do is he will keep respawning Texaco tankers up to 10 times. You know, I said that to 20, 100, whatever, it doesn't matter. I just put 10 because I figured that's a high enough value. If we crash or, into Texaco 10 times or shoot him down 10 times, we got bigger problems. In this next line, init repeat on landing, as soon as he touches down like we demoed in the previous video, it's going to, boom, spawn another one. So what happens though when you blow it up? That isn't in here. When you actually do the spawn object, so spawn tanker Texaco, we've defined up here is, to do it all. This is actually telling him to spawn. So spawn tanker Texaco spawn. So he is telling, we're telling this object to spawn, and that's all defined here. The scheduled part is what will determine if he needs to spawn again. So the scheduler goes out every 60 seconds. I have 10 seconds here because I just changed it to 60, so we're going to go ahead and just change that to 60 seconds. And it's going to poll. It's going to say, hey, is a template of, or is this spawn tanker Texaco object already existing? So it checks in here, hey, I'm tanker Texaco, I'm only allowed one, sorry, there's already one, I'm not going to do anything. 60 seconds later, recursively goes through that. Now, if you blow up Texaco, or Texaco crashes, whatever, the next time scheduler goes off in that 60-second interval, ping, looks for one. If it comes back there isn't one, it's going to start up a new one like you spawned it fresh. So that's how we get that in there to constantly spawn if one gets blown up. The init limit prevents it from spawning multiples at the same time. And again, we talked about this a little bit in another video. I know, people are like, hey, it'd be cool if it RTB'd when it was low on fuel. Hey, you can do it with this script. It's like, yes, I'm fully aware of what we can do. The problem is I just want to get this out here because honestly, the more I work on it, the more I want to do, and I just want to get it out so people can start using it in the format it is. And while we're talking about requests, people wanting to do things. So I was talking to someone about this yesterday, and everybody wants to be a mission maker. Nobody really wants to be a mission maintainer. Mission maintenance is super hard, especially like debugging this and testing. Like, this isn't a whole lot of code. I mean, Moose is not that complicated. Fly Control makes some comments in his videos about how it's pretty simple, it's not that hard, and it really isn't, especially once you tear in here. Now, my background, I do have a little bit of development background and a lot of scripting background, so this all makes sense to me. When I look in here, I'm kind of like, I don't know, it looks kind of confusing. So, but I'm getting better. What is, so anyway, sorry. He says it's simple, and it kind of is, but maintaining a mission and testing this takes so long. I've spent hours upon hours upon hours testing, sending planes from here to here to here, seeing what the reaction is multiple times, not just running one test and then coming back and saying, okay, we're good to go. I'm running it over and over and over. I'm, using the logging tool to check for errors as it's running. Like, I want to know everything that's happening. It takes a long time. You can't just drop things in here and say we're good to go, the mission's good. Because like I said, this is like the game, I want to drop a couple tanks here, a couple planes here. Oh, this is awesome. Here's a mission. With Moose, it is a lot more in-depth because you need to see what's going on with, the scripting. And you can't just run it one time and then come back and say, oh, nope, we need to change it because, this acted like this. You need to do it a few times to get a real feel for what's going to happen. For instance, with the disengage bug, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, the first couple times I didn't notice a problem, but once I started testing it over and over, I noticed, like, hey, there's kind of an issue here. And now, the guy's name is Pike on the Discord for Moose. He's kind of looked at it, and, on GitHub I submitted an error about it here, and, Fly Control's like, hey, I've seen similar issues, something we've looked at. Pikester, he's looking at it as well. He said he's seen the issue before. Let me see here. Yeah, so he's got it. He can't confirm the task engaged remains up, and he's playing around the distance to determine exact fail. So it is a possible bug now. And, Pikester's the guy, just to give him a little credit here. If we look on Discord, Sage linked this in the admin chat, but, he has, the tasking system. They just threw about air-to-ground tasking, which we'll get into here in a little bit as well. Super sharp guy, super helpful, so if he ever sees this, really appreciate it. So anyway, hopefully, this bug will get fixed. with a disengage radius. But anyway, continuing on. So again, this takes a lot of time and effort, which is why if you're going to start like messing around with Moose, you really need to be committed to testing out, your script, debugging it, checking the log files, and making sure everything is working as you expect. And no matter what, no matter how many times I've tested this, I know someone's going to come back and find a bug. It always happens. And sometimes there's weird things happen too. I mean, this is all scripting. It's all built on DCS's AI already, so we already know how kind of wonky that is. All right, off my soapbox there. So, that's the tankers and AWACS, super easy. Like the frequencies, TACAN, all that's controlled in the template, This is just telling that template to spawn and to follow its waypoints, that its frequency, its TACAN, like you normally would, etc., etc. And, TACAN is, set in the advanced waypoint actions. So, the part with all the red, though, this is called the AI air-to-air dispatcher. So, and this is built in the Moose framework here, AI air-to-air dispatcher.lua. The first thing you do to get this working is you need a detection set group. So, detection is, this all runs on detection, radar detection, right? So, what we need to define is what do we want to actually detect? So, if we look at all of these radars, they all start with IRAN EWR. IRAN EWR 2, 1, and 3. And I named the AWACS IRAN EWR 004. It doesn't really matter because I could have just put a comma here and added another object into, or another prefix I should say, into this little parameter so that it would add that to the detection network as well. And so it could have been like IRAN AWACS, and that's probably the cleaner way to do it. But for now, this works okay. I'll probably change that at some point. Also, you'll see I did change the shell. It was over here in the last video. I decided to move it here. It makes it a little more accessible to everyone in the south. Plus, if you did want to go more north, you had we'll move it just a little bit here. There. And based on feedback from Jethro and Storm, again, about 30 miles. I'm going to move that a little in. Give them a 30-mile racetrack. There. So, anyway, back to the red. So IRAN EWR is our detection group. So anything that these radars detect, here, here, and here, and with his AWACS, will all trigger the air-to-air dispatcher. Which means if we want to do air-to-ground dispatching later on, we can, but we'd probably need to use a different detection group. We could use this one, but I saw some issues on the Moose in the Moose community. But we'll get to that point eventually. So now we're saying detection. Detection is just any object we want to create. We could call this anything. So in the examples, of detection equals detection area is new. So we're setting a new detection area. It's going to be detection set group. Detection set group is defined by IRAN EWR. So we're telling detection now is IRAN EWR with a grouping of 50,000 meters. So any planes that it detects coming in, will at 50,000 meters apart, will be part of one flight to group against. Air-to-air dispatcher. So this could literally be anything. We could call this IRAN dispatcher, IRAN ATC, like you could call it whatever you want to. Greek shoots his friends with rockets, in the face. Like it doesn't matter what it is. But we're telling it air-to-air dispatcher, this object, is going to be AI air-to-air dispatcher new. It's calling on AI air-to-air dispatcher detection. So now it's going to use this detection setup we did for air-to-air dispatcher called this. So the next thing we wanted to do is define this air-to-air dispatcher to have a zone to start monitoring. A zone to start reacting against. Because if we didn't have a border set up, it's considered what is a hot war. So anytime you get detected by the IRAN EWR network, it's going to launch anything at you that it can, based on your radiuses you've set up. But because we have a border specified, which is nothing again but a helicopter that is set to late activation so it never spawns, and we're telling it it's a new polygon zone, named Iran border. So it's found the polygon zone named Iran, or it's found the polygon shape named Iran border, and it's setting it up as a new zone. And then we're telling air-to-air dispatcher, set border zone, Iran border zone. So now it knows that anything that it spawns that crosses over the border to engage. If it doesn't cross the border, don't engage it. Now, if I was to add a bunch of planes onto here and give them waypoints, around here, they're going to just engage at will because they weren't spawned by air-to-air dispatcher. You want to make sure that, anything that we want to observe these rules is being controlled by the air-to-air dispatcher object, which is being, used to pass information to AI air-to-air dispatcher. So we have our border zone set up. So now we're in a Cold War scenario where, like we talked about in the other video, it won't engage over this border until someone crosses the border, and then, GCI will respond, or CAP will respond, or both will respond. So again, disengage radius, this is about 30, 35 miles, something like that. And just to cover real quick, any plane that air-to-air dispatcher sends to respond to a threat, whether it's CAP or GCI, it still knows what airbase it spawned at, and I'll tell you how in a minute. But this is where it spawned, and we'll say if it spawned at this base, we'll say 30 miles is that. Anytime it hits 30 miles, it should receive a command to disengage any active target, and either, if it's GCI, fly back to base. Actually, look at this. Pikester responded. Okay, so yeah. So as we're talking about disengage radius, he found an issue. He set the distance to 555, and the chasing flight disengaged around the 34 nautical mile mark. This might be a math bug, but exactly what? Still working. Okay, perfect. So maybe this disengage radius, is going to be fixed, in the next couple days. And in that case, we won't have to worry about it. Moose would probably have to be updated, but if we find what the math error is, we'll just, change our distance to match what we really want. So this is what's awesome about Moose, guys. Like, the community is great. There's a lot of contributors. People are awesome to help out with, and I know some people here have tried to work with flight control and some guys, but engage if you're interested in this stuff. Just start tearing into it and playing with it. And if you're into issues, asking the Moose community. I'll tell you what. In the last couple of weeks, I went from not knowing about any of this. I couldn't even get a plane to spawn to building something like this, and this is still really simple. But 2 weeks ago, I'd be like, I have no idea what you're doing. So hopefully, this disengage radius will actually be fixed, and once you hit that radius, they'll turn around and go back. Right now, if they still chase you, they're gonna chase you till they run out of fuel, or you get shot down by them. But in that case, air-to-air dispatcher is gonna tell them, okay, go back to your zone or go back and land. So it's not like they're gonna stay down here, forever and just do their own thing, because air-to-air dispatcher is still controlling them. That's the cool part, It's not just DCS doing what it wants. You have Moose on top of DCS telling it what to do. Engage radius, again, is going to be, any airborne assets it has. It's going to check this radius, if something crosses the border and says, all right, I need to engage that now. It's going to take a look at all of your caps and say, okay, is anybody within the engage radius? Answers yes, they're going to go engage. Answers no. If they're within the GCI radius, which is 75 miles right now, they will then launch GCI flights to engage. And a lot of times you'll have both, especially if you have a larger flight, because cap flights right now, you have 4 planes over here, 2 in here, 2 in here. So, and then we'll explain how we set all that up. So tactical display is set to true right now. I have it off in the map, and it'll be off on the server as well. But I have it true right now for debugging because it's going to pop up a little box here where we can see what AI dispatcher or air-to-air dispatcher is actually telling. Oh, look, totally turquoise. Is actually telling those planes what to do. So you can see their statuses when they're turning and all that. It's really cool. All right, so we're going to, next thing we want to do is, we've defined our EWR network. We've defined our cap zones. Or excuse me, we haven't done that yet. We've defined our EWR network, and we've defined our border zone and then our radiuses. So now we want to set squadrons. Squadrons are just responses to the incoming flights. So if I was to fly up here, it's gonna use these squadron rules to build out squadrons to send at you. So how this works is I have two templates in this map. Okay, I'm gonna have to move this around a little bit. I ran MiG-21, I ran MiG-29. If I look over here, I have a squadron at Bandar Langa. This is the name of the squadron. We can make this be whatever it wants, but for my mind, I was just simply typing this in here. And this is the format you always use when you set a squadron, by the way. Set squadron, the name, Bandar Langa, the location that it spawns from, Bandar Langa, and then the templates it utilizes. It's going to randomly pick the MiG-21 or the MiG-29. So when it says, hey, I'm supposed to do a cap flight, and a cap flight is 2 planes in one group, it's going to say, okay, I'm going to give you 2 MiG-21s or 2 MiG-29s. Now, if it's GCI responding, it may give you a 21, or it may give you a 29, or if it's more than that, it may give you 21, 21, 29, whatever. Mixes and matches. So, it gives you a little bit of variety there. You don't know what you're going to have. It changes it up. So, we put a squadron at Bandar Langa, at Bandar Abbas International, and LAR Air Base. LAR Air Base, for those who know, is up here. Man, my email pop-ups. Okay. So, we have squadrons defined, but that doesn't tell them what they're doing. That just says, hey, we have a squadron at each one of these bases. And they're going to be made up of these templates, which are over here. So, next what we want to set up is squadron overhead. The overhead is when you're going to have, the response. So, right now they're all set to 1. So, if 4 planes come up, AI dispatchers will say, okay, there's 4 planes coming up. We have 2 in cap that are within our engage radius, so we're going to send those 2 planes at the 4. But there's still 2 more unaccounted for, so we're going to send 2 more planes from GCI to engage, so it's a 4v4. You can set your squadron overhead to be like to 1.5 or to 2 or however you want them to be, respond. So you can actually put, a handicap on the AI to spawn more than you have. So if there were 4 of you and you came across and you have it set to 1.5, it's going to get you a total 6 planes at you. We can always adjust this. It's literally just changing this one little parameter, not a big deal. But it just requires some, playing around with and seeing what people want to do. We want to keep this simple and fun. It's called the fun map. We don't want anything super elaborate. This isn't to replace the campaign or anything. We just want a place that's kind of living and automated that does things so we can get on here and do what we want whenever we want. So grouping. So each squadron is grouped into 2s. And that's for the cap flights. And we'll talk about that here in a second, when we set our cap intervals. Squadron takeoff in air. I made all 3 squadrons have air takeoffs and landing at runways. Takeoff in air is a lot quicker than takeoff like from a hot start because it still has to, it spawns in. It spawns in like on the ramp, hot started. Then it needs to like taxi over here, taxi to the runway, turn around, then take off. For GCI, that is way too long. You'll end up at a point, what I noticed, where you fight 1 guy or you fight 2 guys, and it takes a while for the next one to warm. Like, it just takes too long. What we want to do though is, with an air start, is they start moving quicker. So it actually simulates, I think, a better scenario of okay, these guys are ready to roll. So poop poop poop, ready to go. Landing at runway. The issue I found with if you did like landing on engine shutoff, so they land and actually taxi and shut off, is one will land. The next one will not try and land until this one is done taxiing, gets to the ramp, and then shuts off. And then the next one will try and land and do the same thing. Like, it just takes way too long. And again, that's just DCS AI. There's nothing we can really do to help that, So I'm just trying to make things not more fun than realistic. I like realism, but how realistically is someone going to go up here and say, okay, I'm watching these AI planes about to land. Okay, this one landed. Oh, he just disappeared. He didn't taxi. My merchant's ruined. I'm done with this game. I'm uninstalling. Shogun, you suck. Like, I promise you, it'll be okay. Fuel threshold. So if this right now fuel threshold doesn't work, it's pretty well documented in the Moose community. What we have to do eventually is add some functions in here so that if a squadron detects it's low on fuel, it actually do some air-to-air refueling to stay on cap longer and stuff. Pretty cool, but right now it's not too. It doesn't respond, so that's why like the disengage radius, they'll chase you till they run out of fuel. Instead of hey, I'm at 20%, I'm gonna turn around. Once this gets fixed, or even better, once the disengage radius gets fixed, which we just saw might get fixed soon, or at least we'll have a workaround, it'll be a lot better. All right, so we defined these squadrons. So now we need to tell them what to do. But before we tell them what to do, we also need to define, what our caps are going to do. So we define 3 cap zones. Again, inactive helicopters. The name of the helicopter is Iran Cap West, South, and East. Okay, so we want to define these now as new zones. So we want Cap Zone South. This is the object. Is going to be a new polygon zone. And the name of that zone that it's looking for in the game is Iran Cap South. Iran Cap South. And the group find name is Iran Cap South. So Cap Zone South equals this guy. Cap Zone East is over here because Iran Cap East. Cap Zone West over here. Air-to-air dispatcher. Now we want to set squadron caps. So what this is doing is saying, hey, this set squadron cap, we want the Bandar Langos squadron to provide cap in Cap Zone South. Bandar Langos providing cap in Cap Zone South. The minimum altitude it'll patrol at 4,000 feet. The maximum at 8,000. The minimum patrol speed. The maximum patrol speed. The minimum and maximum engagement speeds when it gets tasked to engage. And the default is barometric altimeter. So, and again, the Cap Zone East, over here, we have it set so the guys from Bandar Abbas patrol this. And so the idea here is, this is super simple right now. But what we would ideally want, later on, once we flesh this out a little bit more, is say, because not every squadron has to do everything. So you could you can define a new squadron here, call it Bandar Langa space cap, and it'll reference Iran MiG-21 and MiG-29, and you can make new templates called 21 cap, 29 cap, and maybe your caps templates have more fuel than weapons, and maybe your GCI templates have more weapons and less fuel because they're only for, response. So you could tell, hey, I want my cap squadrons to do cap, and then when you define new squadrons for GCI down here, and this is also, so GCI only engages, so it matches the engagement speed of the cap because they're also engaging. You define those squadrons to do GCI. And since these squadrons are already defined up here with templates and where they're starting from, we don't need to tell it where else to come from. So theoretically, we could tell this guy, hey, I want another squadron for GCI to come off of here, it's super customizable. It's all just logical thinking and how you set this up. So cap interval, this is telling you when caps should spawn. So we want, we already decided that these were flights of 2. So we want 1 flight to fly the cap interval from Bandar Abbas at 1. The Bandar Langa squadron to fly cap interval 1, and the Lar Air Base to fly in a cap of 2. So what that will give us is we'll have, 2 patrolling here, 2 here, and 4 here. Yeah. That's okay. Ugh. Okay, and this is the minimum time and the maximum time that they'll spawn in there. So 90 seconds to 300 seconds. So that gives you kind of a variable of when those caps will spawn. And that is pretty much it. At this point, what I kind of want to show is, just show, we went over this a little bit in another video, but kind of show this working. And we'll send, him, and we'll give him what? We'll give him a new payload test, and we're just going to delete it eventually, but give him a fuel tank and maybe, I don't know, oh, wrong plane. Let's go US, sorry. No. Wow, it is thinking, but it did not like me swapping that plane. And this is just DCS for you, I mean, we all know. Okay. Curiously, I'm wondering. Here we go. So we're seeing some errors with some of the shaders here. Oh. It actually worked now. So there we go. So it just, recompilation process will take some time. So it's cool to have this up for things like this. I mean, this right error we just saw had nothing to do with Moose. This is just, looking at DCS error. So anyway, USA. Let's hit F18. Okay. And we're going to give him, I don't know, what's this? Those are like Mark 82s to fight with. I don't know. I don't want to give him too much, so we'll do the standard fight. This thing right here, that's fine. It doesn't matter about skin. And we're going to add a waypoint for him, like right, I don't know, we'll tell him to fly up here. And we'll make him like a flight of 2. And, we'll put another one here. And he's going to fly up here as well. There's that. And, we're kind of just going to watch the debugger here, or our log file here, just to show what's going on. And we'll also see how the AI responds. So, one thing I made sure of, again, is that tactical display set to true. I'm going to save it just to make sure. And because I saved that, I need to make sure that that new version of the file is in here. Boom. And now I save the mission. Let's fly it. I say let's fly it, I mean let's watch. So let's get Glog up. All right. So let me pause already. I have set up a filter in Glog. Filters. Anything that starts with scripting here is Moose. So I set up a filter to 4 colors white, back colors chocolate, because mooses are moose are the anything that Moose is doing. So we can see here event birth. It's spawning, Tanker Texas, because we told it what to spawn. It's spawning Tanker Shell, Iran EW4, AWACS Magic, because those spawn immediately. So let's unpause and just kind of watch what happens. We should see MiG-21 starting to get spawned here as well. Hold on, you probably can't see that very well. I wonder if there's a zoom in here. I don't think there is. Yeah, I'm sorry guys if you can't read this too well. So here we go. Event takeoff. Let's go and just pause it again. So what Moose has done is it has created a MiG-21 and another MiG-21. And we can see up here, MiG-21 001, cap patrolling. MiG-21 001, and this is the 01 and the 02, so these are part of the same flight, because we defined, remember, a group of 2, one flight to go and patrol. We see here that they've taken off. So, again, just watching what Moose does. And we see here, more being created, another cap flight up here. So if I want to see MiG-21 002, I can click up here and see MiG-21. Okay, that's 01. I think this is 02 down here, yeah. And we can see what they're doing. So they're patrolling their cap zones. Gives us fuel state and damage. And this is telling us again. See, look at it. It's random to pick a MiG-29 or 21. It just so happens, all these cap zones have picked 21s. Yeah, all 4 caps are 21s. Interesting. I promise you it's just random. If you look in the other video, we saw 29s and 21s. So these guys are going in. These guys have definitely crossed the border. So these guys are going to turn around and engage them now. And see, pause. So targets an area. We have here 2 pilots and 2 pilots. MiG-2103 cap is now engaging, and they're executing that engagement. So if I click these guys, MiG-21003 cap engaging because these guys have crossed into the border. Same thing over here. These guys have crossed into the border. So they're firing missiles, they're shooting. Apparently nobody can hit anything. Okay, that 1 MiG died. Another MiG died. So we should see GCI start to spawn. Yep, so there we go. Because of, hold on. All right, because of the overhead, and we see, Moose is doing all this for us. There's 2 flights here. GCI says, hey, I have an overhead of 1. I need to match this. So it's launched 2 MiGs. Both are MiG-29s to come and fight him. So, and then over here, what's going on? It's still a 2v1. So again, it's not instant. It's not like, okay, you're down and boom, spawn another one. We're doing it fast forwarded, but it's a little more realistic, I think, too, which is kind of nice. So, because you don't want it to be instant, like, oh my gosh, the AI is like super Skynet self-aware, So we're going to watch, because now it's a 2-on-2 there. And so ideally, after you defeat these first 2 bandits, if you were here just to fight or maybe cover for like, bombers or something coming in, or like air-to-ground guys, you might want to get out now. And once that disengage range is fixed, if you make it back across the border or 30 miles from their home base, they'll turn around and disengage. As it is right now, sometimes it works, sometimes they just chase you, so we'll see. We can see here, GCI is engaging. So these guys actually killed those guys too. And boom, another GCI flight was launched. And they're started up. Right now they're idle because they literally just spawned in. But they spawned in as a response to those 2 across the border with no one actively engaging them. So these guys right here spawned because as of these, remember how these were GCI that got launched? Now they launched the replacements for the cap zone. So even if this one guy happens to take out these 2, these guys will be upped and within the engage radius to now take over, and it won't launch another GCI. So let's just watch what happens some more. And actually, these guys are going to go ahead and engage because they were ahead 2-1. And these guys were a single flight for the cap. So yeah, he's getting chased now. Oh, he's dead. And this is all being controlled by Moose. That's the cool part. And these are all templates defined in our script file and using the zones and stuff that we set up using the air-to-air dispatcher. Man, these guys over here are just... These guys are bosses. They're probably out of weapons at this point, so... Yeah, see, all of the cap guys are patrolling, supposedly. I think these guys are actually fighting, but... Yeah, so the guys are dead. So now that they've died, GCI is now home. He's going home. He's RTBing. These guys are still flying cap, and these guys are still obviously flying their cap as well. And we're back to where we started. Guys on patrol, and GCI is going to land. And just to show you, I mean, it gets pretty crazy. we're just going to spawn a lot and just see what happens. Like, I don't think I've tested this many before. I'll tell you what, we're also going to spawn a couple here. Let's just see what happens. Like, I've not done this test before, so... We're imagining there's like a 15 flight going in. Let's see how the AI responds. So yeah, we have a lot going in. And again, I turn off the tactical overview for like if when we upload this to the server, but this is really good right now just to see what's actually going on. So these cap flights have spawned. Finally, this one spawns because again, it's anywhere from 90 seconds to 5 minutes. This cap flight has spawned. You know, they're airborne patrolling now. So everyone's on patrol. Let's slow this down a little bit. We'll do like 3 times speed just to watch and see. So all these guys are coming in. And remember, it's, you know, not an immediate, like, oh my gosh, you've crossed the border, launch 5 billion planes. See? Okay, a lot of stuff just happened. This cap flight got engaged because they're within, 50 miles. And some GCI planes are being launched. And these guys are all going to come and engage over here. More GCI are being launched here. Cap flights getting engaged. Like, it's a lot. These guys, interesting enough, though, don't have anybody engaged on them, and I don't know why. Well, they're going to go and get engaged anyway. And I don't know if it's just because of... It might be because of the grouping. It was 50,000 kilometers. I might have considered them. I don't know. Again, this is why we test, right? But in any case, GCI is still spawning planes over here. So, like I said in another video, you're never going to just like come in here and defeat Iran with, a group of 5 F-18s and just take everybody out. Just not going to happen. Yeah. So you can see we have, cap, GCI, cap. I mean, it's, all reacted on based on what we spawned, so. Anyway, that's pretty much it, I mean, I just kind of want to walk through, the script and how it's working and what's going on in Moose. All right. Thanks, guys.